Welcome, everyone, to yet another episode of the G Woman Voices of Influence series. Now, this is where we spotlight women whose voice, whose work, and whose impact are shaping our world and the future. I'm Clara Rufai, your host for today, and I am so pleased to have you join me for today's conversation. So, my guest today is a woman whose work is at the heart of social impact, helping organizations grow stronger, think more clearly, and build change that truly lasts. The woman of influence we're celebrating today is none other than Vijaya Balaji. So, Vijaya Balaji is the CEO and Managing Director of Toolbox India Foundation, and she's the principal founder of Social Lens Consulting. She's one of the pioneers in advising nonprofit organizations on how to strengthen their structure, their leadership, and long term impact. Now, after transitioning from corporate world into social impact sector, she set up India operations of Tool Work India, scaling the program to support over 500 projects. Through Social Lens, Vijaya has designed and delivered programs. She's coached over 750 organizations, and she's developed diagnostic tools, toolkits, and technology enabled platforms that help organizations grow more effectively. Vijaya also serves on the boards of several nonprofits. She hosts the Founders Table. She runs her podcast, which is called Covering Ground, and she continues to play a key role in building women led enterprises. Vijaya, I'd love to welcome you to Voices of Influence. Welcome.
Thank you, Clara. I'm delighted to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. So, Vijaya, tell me your journey, right, from corporate world into social impact space is really powerful to me. And I'd like to ask you, because I know people want to know, right, what inspired that transition for you, right? When did you realize that your work was not just about supporting organizations, but actually strengthening the entire ecosystem?
Thank you, Clara. I think my sort of foray into the social impact space was not something completely planned. I knew that I wanted to do something that sort of had a sort of a deeper sense of purpose for me, and this was a sort of a moment which came about where I said that, before I turn 40, I want to do something that's going to drive the sense of purpose that I have. I didn't know what it was. I'd had a checkered career. I'd worked in corporations. I'd worked with a multinational in India. I had done something else, but it was truly a moment of serendipity where a chance meeting led me into this completely new world of the social development sector,
Mm,
as it's commonly referred to here in India. And I stepped in without actually not knowing anything about it because I wasn't really trained for it. But I think, and I say this every time I'm asked, I think it just became the most enduring love story of my life because I fell in love with the work, and till date, I think the work that I get to do has is constantly teaching me so much. Um, I do believe that even though I can't directly see it, that there is some community which is being um, supported through the organizations that we engage with. I don't directly work with communities, but working with these nonprofit organizations who are change making organizations, I do believe that we are able to drive change at the last mile. Uh, and I just feel there are so many people doing such phenomenally good work. I'm just very, very grateful, humbled, and privileged to be a part of it, really.
wow. Thank you for sharing that origin moment with us, Vijaya. I mean, I hear you say it was a moment of serendipity, and thank God
Yes.
that you obeyed, and went into it as you should have gone into it as well. So, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, for everybody who is an influencer, there usually is most times an influencer behind the influencer. Now, you've worked on with so many organizations and leaders over the years. I would like to know who or what is it that you would say has influenced the way you think about leadership and about the systems and about the impact? Or was there perhaps a moment or maybe a person that really, helped to shape your approach to your work today?
Tough one, Clara. In the last 15 years, I've been, I've had the privilege to meet some phenomenally strong, committed people, right, who've carried this deep sense of purpose. Meeting them has been sort of an eye opener for me
Hmm.
to what really drives people. There's always this thing: are leaders born or are leaders made? For me, I think the jury's still out on that one. But I think I've had the exceptional privilege to meet people. This gentleman in Kolkata who went on to set up schools so that children in the most disadvantaged neighborhoods could go into school. And his
Hmm.
whole model of driving children into that school was driven with the sense of building the self-worth in children at a very young age. He stands out as somebody for me. I've met this woman from Rajasthan, you know, who sort of worked very hard to break the shackles of the kind of patriarchal existence that a lot of women there have been through, and has gone on to set up a phenomenal collective with rural women, and built sort of bringing economic justice to her and her tribe out there. There's young founders who gave up very, very lucrative careers in corporate world. If you're if you're from India, you know that every third person almost wants to be in the IT industry because IT is very big, but chose to give up that and said that she wanted to work to make the world a better place for children. So there have been each of these people that I've met through the course of the last 15 years have left me inspired. And there's no age out here. We've seen women well onto their advancing years. And while they've built succession managers and leaders in their own organizations, their own drive to continue to push for change hasn't sort of diminished. I think that sort of stands out for me. And I think for me, leadership is something that you sort of learn, and it just sort of creeps into your DNA when you're running an organization. It doesn't matter whether it's a non-profit or a for-profit. The contexts may be different, the kind of resources and access that you have may be different, but leadership is something that you sort of learn every day on the job, and it just
Indeed, indeed.
slowly creeps into you. It's almost insidious, sometimes.
Indeed, indeed. And Misty Dong says a beautiful testimony, Vijaya. I agree. I totally agree. I'm intrigued by the fact that it's not just one person, but it's just different people that you've met in the course of your journey that have made you the kind of leader that you are. And Misty Dong
Yes,
again says, "Good afternoon, Queens. Looking forward to this conversation." Lovely, lovely.
lovely,
Let's talk a
lovely.
little bit, Vijaya. Let's talk a little bit. Oh, user says, great point. Leadership is something you learn every day. I totally agree with her on that one. So let's talk about impact and transformation a little bit, Vijaya. You've supported, hundreds of projects, and you've worked with over 750 organizations, which I
Yes,
think is really incredible and impressive, mind you. And for the leader who's listening to us today, and for the person who will watch on the replay, who might be feeling stuck, overwhelmed, unsure of how to grow, how to go forward, can you tell us what actually changes for you as a person? What changes when things like structure, clarity, and the right systems align and come into place? And also, in your own experience, what's the difference between organizations that struggle and those that sustain their impact?
Fantastic question. And I'm going to try and unpack this a little bit, Clara. Firstly, I
Thank
don't
you.
believe that. Firstly, I don't believe that we've ever set out to transform organizations. I think, in all humility, transformation is a journey that every organization, like an individual, goes through, right? Organizations get strengthened as we move from point to point. The
Mhm.
first thing which I always tell every organization, whether it's a leader, a founder, or leadership at the top, that organizations will have to constantly keep moving forward or evolving. And what you see is through this process, you see small bursts of transformation. At one point in time, it could be systems transformation. We've seen a lot of organizations who've grown, they've suddenly grown, not having the accompanied systems in place. So you put your systems in place. And that's the boring part. It's like the plumbing and electrical work that you do when you construct a house. Processes, systems, documentation, boring pieces, but they are the foundational building blocks that strengthen organizations, because once you have that, you can then go to the next big step which people are talking about, which is digital transformation. Today we're sitting on one of the biggest disruptions that the world is seeing, which is AI. And everybody is saying, oh, we have to be an AI enabled enterprise. But that can only begin if you look backwards and see, do I have my systems in place? If I've got my processes in place, I build systems. If I build systems, I can think of automation. If I can think of automation, then I can look at how I sort of make it sort of powered with AI and so on and so forth. So I think the journey of transformation, as I said, is a journey. There are milestones which every organization has to go through. Now, the problem which you placed is there are a lot of founders out there, including my own self, both for Toolbox and Social Lens, when we felt that, okay, how do we get more effective? How do we get more efficient? How do we get better at what we're doing? And I will speak a little bit about the nonprofit world, the industry or the sector or the space I'm in, where resources can be constrained. And this is not a phenomena unique to India. It is true for every charity organization around the world, whether you're in the global north or in the global south. Resources are capital, philanthropic capital is largely available for programmatic delivery. But when you need the building blocks of an organization, technology, communications, strengthening your digital presence, having good human resources, people functions in place, there's not so much capital available. And I always tell every leader, start with one. Don't try to fix everything. you know you're not going to be able to fix everything in a day, because typically a lot of organizations are always in that fight or flight mode. You're constantly firefighting, so you're playing the role of a fireman all the time, and if you try to fix everything, you're going to run out of steam. The missions that a lot of leaders in the nonprofit world take on are mighty, Clara. You will agree with
Mhm.
me that empowering a community or to break the cycle of poverty takes an entire generation to do so. And for organizations to therefore continue to deliver impact and for them to say sustainable, I don't believe in rapid transformation, but you build it brick by brick, step by step.
Brick
And
by brick, step by
eventually,
step.
yes, every organization will move. They will
Yeah.
move from point A to B to C. I don't
Yes.
believe in leapfrogging from A to D.
I really do agree with you on that, Vijaya, because having a growth mindset, whether it's for individuals
Yes.
or organizations, is what's most important. The moment you have that, you can then
Yep.
take on project after project, line upon line, and just make the changes that get you from where you are to where you want to be. I very much think that organizational growth, as indeed world growth or any kind of growth, is something that has to be, has to take time and happen in
Absolutely.
stages, and you have to trust the process as you proceed on that journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, the way I look at it is, it's not about scale, right? Every
Yes,
organization talks about scale. Uh, I believe that impact is as much about going in depth as much as wide. It is the
totally.
finally that choice rests with the founders, the leaders, and the management. But for either of them, you need to have the foundational systems,
In
processes
place.
very, very strong.
Yes. And I guess that's what Misty Dong is saying. She says effective and efficient systems and processes are some of the
Absolutely.
fundamentals that underpin and predicate, growth and progress. So true.
Absolutely.
So very true.
Absolutely.
And she says, master one, then progress to the
Yes.
next. Better bite size and gradual over overspreading and juggling chaos. Isn't that wise advice?
Very well
So
said.
true. So true. And the Good Radio Network says when we're open to admiring others with an open heart,
Yeah,
we can be inspired by those around us. Beautiful comment.
absolutely.
Beautiful comment.
Absolutely.
Keep those comments
Yeah.
coming. Keep those comments coming. I mean, all that you're sharing, Vijaya, is resonating with those who are listening to us today. So let's talk about your signature superpower. Every woman of influence, every person of influence has one. And, when you step into an organization, what is it that is the first thing that you tend to notice? Maybe something that other people might miss. Or simply put, what would you say is your secret sauce, when it comes to bringing clarity into complex situations?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer this
Is there a
in
single thread that
but
has run through the 750 projects that you've so far been involved in?
well, I kind of like to think of it as your friendly neighborhood doctor who's there. Remember the world when you used to have these doctors who'd make home visits. It's almost of a bygone era, very, very vintage. But I think first is truly to leave judgment behind.
Hmm.
You have to you see, when you step into work with another organization on the premise that you're here to strengthen them, the first thing is they are vulnerable, they're opening themselves up to scrutiny. And so first thing is to leave your judgment behind, sit on
Hmm.
the same side of the table they are, so that you are truly able to visualize what they're going through, what their resource constraints are, what are the challenges that they have, whether it is financial, whether it is human, whether it's infrastructure. You need to start from there, not parachute yourself down in and say that, hey, we're coming here and we're going to fix it and then we're going to zoom out. You truly have to walk with them. And I
Yeah.
think that is something I'd like to believe has been the approach that we've taken, whether we've engaged with an organization over the course of 6 weeks or 6 months. Clara, truly, I think that is very, very important. Secondly, humility. Do not believe that you are going in there to fix something. You are, because what you're going to learn and gain in the process far exceeds in what you're going to be delivering to them. So for me, these two things I truly believe are good attributes to have,
Yeah.
things which I like to believe I take with me. And for me, then it doesn't matter whether you're a pro bono client or you're a large organization who has the capacity to pay. That has been our undermining approach philosophy
Hmm.
through the last 15 years.
So leave judgment behind and
Yes.
operate with humility. Literally
Yes.
see things from their perspective through their
Yes.
lenses, and then you can
Yes.
and then see yourself perhaps as part of their growth because you're
Absolutely.
there for a season, for a reason, perhaps to help them grow,
Yes.
you know.
Absolutely.
So meet them where they are at, Misty Dong says. That is so
Yes.
true. Lovely, lovely. I'm loving this conversation. And Misty Dong says, loving these nuggets. They're resonating 100%, she says.
So happy to hear this.
Okay, so let's yes, indeed. Let's talk about the power of amplification. Right. Just as an example, Vijaya, at G Woman Media, we're really
Mhm.
intentional about amplifying women who are not just visible, but who are doing work that creates real lasting impact. Because not
Right.
all work creates lasting impact, you know.
Yes.
And a lot of what you do as a person, as an individual, as a professional, you know, happens behind the scenes in a
Yeah.
sense. You're building
Yes.
systems, you're helping organizations to strengthen, you know, their processes and all of that. And I want to know how important is it that women step into the roles where they're shaping strategy, they're building structures, and they're not just contributing within them. So not it's not happening to them, it's happening because of them. And what are the changes that women need to lead at that level?
Well, I think, I'd like to believe we're moving to a place where there are more women who have a seat at the table to start with, Clara. I think that is very important. The voices, the perspective that women bring is incredibly powerful anywhere in the world. And they really can shape a lot of these things. I'd like to see more women represented on boards. You know,
Hmm.
beyond the rules that have been dictated by the ministries of corporate affairs and so on. Even in India, we there is even if you take the DEI sort of principle, I think beyond that, women definitely need to. Embrace leadership, embrace the even the little bit of that discomfort which comes, because you're changing and challenging the status quo. So I would encourage women, go after those board positions. It doesn't matter if you're seen as ambitious, because your voice can really bring a very different, much needed perspective in those rooms where decisions are being made.
I
I
feel
would
like I
therefore
need to ask this follow-up question. Sorry to cut you there, Vijaya,
yes, yes.
but I feel
Yeah.
like I need to ask this, you know, follow-up question and just in one sentence,
Yeah.
briefly, very briefly, tell me, how do you think that women can and should deal with imposter syndrome? Because that very much is an issue when you're talking about operating at that level for many women.
Um, I would again say that, be true to yourself, you know, um, and you will face situations where um, many times it requires
Hmm.
you to think twice about what you're going to say. It requires you to almost sort of step slightly aside from the values that you believe in, uh, convictions that you carry. Uh, but I do believe many times there's a sort, not a coercion, but it's almost uh, there's this soft silencing which happens, and so you don't stay truly true to yourself. Clara, there have been situations, right, as a founder of a women first organization, um, whether it comes to negotiating with a client, whether you're in a room where opinions are sort of voiced more loudly, it makes you wonder whether you need to silence yourself, whether you need to play up to being something that you're not. And I'm going to tell every woman out there, there may be there may be what you perceive as a loss in the short run, but in the long run, there is only going to be a win for you there.
Hmm. I totally agree, and I think that's powerful. And Our user here says what you're going to learn in the process is far more than what you'll be delivering.
Absolutely.
Ooh. Hmm.
Absolutely.
And Shirin says amazing perspective and views. I totally agree. Misty Dong says when we recondition or reprogram our minds to understand and accept that we all bring something unique to the table, we truly then open ourselves up to learning and teaching. Every moment is teachable.
100%. We
True,
stop
true,
growing
true.
the day we stop learning, Clara.
I agree. I totally, totally do agree. And just riding from, your last comment, your last answer, I'd like to just ask you, for you to just give a message to women. If every woman that is watching you today, and maybe especially those who work in purpose-driven spaces, if that woman could walk away with one belief, what would you want her to hold on to? What is that one belief that you would want her to hold on to, Vijaya?
That you just don't give up. There will be the tides of change, Clara. They will. I think setting out to do something which calls for driving change, right? At any place. And here I'd like to say that there is no distinction whether you're in the for-profit world or non-profit world. Ultimately, both kind of types of organizations have their own purpose, and
Yes.
the challenges are different. You're going to fight different battles every day. One of the things I've learned in my leadership journey is that your vulnerability will actually be your strength. You convert vulnerability into your strength, and you will see how far you can go. You do not give up, because there will be detractors, there will be detriments, there will be discouragement, there will be things that don't go. But uh, you have to carry this dogged belief and persistence. You have to be persistent. And the only other thing is, you also need to carry a certain amount of agility in what you do. The two go hand in hand. Persistence with agility will allow every individual to tide over every challenge that they see.
That's resonating with me. I can tell you that, sister. That's resonating, especially the bit about your vulnerability will eventually be your strength.
Yes.
You know, you have to
Yes.
just be vulnerable. And in those vulnerable moments, you certainly will learn something that strengthens you for your next level. You know,
Absolutely.
Vijaya, I want to thank you for this conversation. I've learned
Thank
such a
you.
lot from listening, to you. And as Misty Dong says, giving up is not an option. Giving up is not an option at all. Persistence builds character, she says. The comments just keep coming. But Vijaya, I'd like to thank you for this conversation because what you've shared today, on Voices of Influence really highlights the fact that impact doesn't just happen because we care, right? Or because we want it to happen. Impact happens because we build it intentionally, because we are
Absolutely.
authentic and we are genuine and we go for what we want as women. We don't, count ourselves out of the game. We believe that we deserve to be in the very center of the game. And your work, the work that you do, may sit behind the scenes, but it's such an important part of why meaningful change actually is lasting change when women build, with that intention. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank
And thank
you.
you for helping organizations move from good intentions to real sustainable impact. Thank you for
Thank you.
being with us today on Voices of Influence. Now, I'd like to say to every woman who's listening to this, when a woman trusts herself, she transforms her life. And when she shares her voice, she transforms the world. And again, this has been the G Woman Voices of Influence, G Woman Media Voices of Influence, a place where women's voices are not just heard, but they're amplified and celebrated. I'm Clara Rufai, and until next time, build with purpose and keep shining.
Bye. Thank you.